Welcome to the All Things Circular podcast, your gateway to the circular economy. Hosted by industry experts Victoria Darcy and Rich Bolger. Every episode is proof that circularity isn't just good for the planet. It's a smart business decision. Our mission is simple: to empower, to inform, and to show you how to make the circular economy work for you.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of All Things Circular. I'm Vic Darcy.
And I'm Rich Bolger.
Rich, I've got a treat for you today. So we've actually got an old friend and colleague of mine, Mr. Jesse Johnson, who I've known for many years, coming on to talk to us about a body that he represents called UNIDA. So without further ado, let me introduce Jesse and allow him to explain both to yourself and to our listeners of, just what UNIDA is and why we thought he'd be a great podcast guest. Jesse, welcome.
Vic, so nice to see you. Thanks for having me on today. Rich, nice to meet you. Look forward to getting into the conversation here.
I love making a new friend, but what I love even more is a new friend that can introduce me to an association where I can make hundreds of new friends from that. So I'm excited about this one too.
Well, it's great. I'm excited to share a little bit more. And Rich, you have a lot of friends coming to one of our conferences. I can tell you that. So,
all right, yeah. Well, let's jump in. Talk to us about UNIDA. First of all, what does UNIDA mean? And then tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, UNIDA, it stands for United Network Equipment Dealers Association. We were founded in 2006 by sort of the godfathers of the secondary market on the networking side. And so we're an association, organization of 230 member companies globally. And so we represent server storage and networking products primarily. Our goals are around industry best practices, setting the highest quality standards for products that are being resold, and to eradicate counterfeit and fraud in our marketplace. All of those things that keep our marketplace solid and secure is what our association works on. And so we gather a couple times a year. We have a trading platform that connects our member companies together to transact and do deals, as well as a dispute resolution committee. To make sure that our member companies feel safe, secure, and trading day in and day out.
So when I was first introduced to this section of the secondary market, it was almost when you're talking to people about it, it had this almost sense of illegality. These people are on the wrong side of the tracks. These people are, breaking the law. These people are operating outside of where they should be. And then you realize that actually it really isn't, because as Rich will know, and listeners to the podcast will know, the secondary market exists for organizations that own assets to sell them, and they're entitled to sell them. But interestingly, it gets lumped in to this one big word of the gray market. And actually, it's very different, because, the gray market could be counterfeit, it could be black, it could be, illegally upgraded. Indeed, it could be fraudulent. But actually, what we're dealing with here is an organization that sells product that is on its second way round. Now, it could still be new, and that customer didn't want it, but it's not able to be RMA'd. But certainly it was my first visual into this is a self-regulating body to say we don't want those bad actors. We don't want those sharks, to muddy our name and to muddy what we do. So, Jesse, can you just explain to us what do you need to do to become a member? What differentiates the UNIDA members from others in the industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we go through a lengthy process of due diligence to make sure that our potential members are who they say they are, that they have a warehouse, that they have standards, that they're capable of processing, bringing in equipment to protect the equipment and then the previous owner's data, right? To be able to wipe that clean. There are processes in place to make sure that that's all protected, that they can produce and provide a quality piece of equipment, right, to be able to resell, and the vetting process through a third party to make sure that they are who they say they are, we just don't let in anyone, right, and I think that's the key.
Yeah, there's actually three different market classifications that exist. there's the authorized market, also called sometimes the white market, where the manufacturer and distributor are involved and in control of not just the product movement, but the information that goes along with it. Make, distribute, sell, and you can see how many things a manufacturer made. They know exactly who they sold it to and what price point they had. And they know exactly who the distributor sold it to and the price point that was there. And if there was a return that went the opposite direction, there's a little bit of resistance and friction because no one wants to give back money. But the one that's trying to get their credit back is looking for their maximum recovery. So authorized market is controlled movement forward too. The term, the gray market, was actually designed to instill fear, because it was outside of the vision of the OEM or the distributor. If it didn't go back to them, they couldn't see it. But that doesn't mean that it's illegal. That's the black market, gray and counterfeit. So whenever a customer has a product and technology and platforms like the one at Unita that help match used supply with used demand, give customers a way to go through and provide value for product that they legally own in a legally approved way. And when I see organizations like Unita and other marketplaces, Amazon, eBay, they're self-regulated marketplaces where the seller and the buyer all have publicly available behavioral history, you can comment. There's an incentive and a confidence for the buyers and the sellers to go through a regulated marketplace, to go through and keep things green. I like to call the gray market the green market because there's money to be made and it's better for the environment.
It's exactly right. And that's why we love the word sustainability. Now, we've been doing that for a long, long time, right? Our member companies are sustainable. They care about the reuse of products. And then educating our customers on exactly that.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned three things. You mentioned a platform that matches used supply with used demand. I would love to learn a little bit more about that platform. And then I'd love to learn more about the members. How do you attract them? And then the dispute resolution is also interesting. So if you wouldn't mind leading a little bit more into those characteristics.
Yeah, that's great. Let's start with our platform, right? And we've realized that through our growth that the need for a platform for technology is important. We have a mobile app now that we're using to connect our members and our member companies to those deals, right? And as you could imagine, these deals happen at a split second time. If you're not there and you're not showing that you have those supply to match the demand, you're going to miss out on opportunities. And so we've really invested heavily in our technology and in that trading platform. It provides an ease of use for our members too, to identify very quickly where the supply is, where the value lies. That also then for our member companies, customers and or end customers, provides them an idea of where the value lies. Right. And so it's something that's on our radar. We have a separate committee, a technology committee that is going out and actively understanding from our members what we want, what we need to continue to advance our technologies and services that we offer.
Great. In the secondary market, when you're dealing with used products going from one customer to the next, used products can come in a variety of functionality. Does it work? Does it not work? Cosmetic. Is it A, B, C, good, better, best, great, very good, good? Everyone has their own different love language of what they call products, and everyone has their own different expectation of what they expect. I could imagine that presenting product on a platform, there could be a little bit of difference of opinion of, well, you said it was this and I was expecting that. Talk to me about how you handle those types of interactions.
Yeah, and one of again the pillars of our association is making sure that we're educating our members on what quality looks like, sharing standards for our members to be able to get those products to a more sellable location. And traditionally, our member companies have the capability to bring those products in to refurbish or repair up to a level that's a standard of an end customer, right? In those instances, though, as you've mentioned, the communication and conversation of our members to understand and know exactly what they're getting is the crux of what we're trying to do. And that's all around communication and making sure that our member companies are communicating well to share in those details. Our platform allows for those details to go directly into the conversation, whether it's A, B, C, or D, or however you want to grade those products. And know that, again, the standard of just offering products, it has to be working, it has to be tested, it has to have some level of refurbishment done to those products to be able to resell back on our market.
I think what's quite interesting there, Jesse, is you mentioned that the UNIDA members must have refurbishment capabilities, which again is a differentiator, because you're not talking about somebody that's flipping boxes just to make a quick buck.
Right.
And those are the types of organizations that give this industry a bad name, because there isn't a quality control there. They don't necessarily understand the nuances of how you deal with product that's moving on to its second use life. So, I think that's one of the hallmarks almost of why, when businesses are looking to purchase products on the secondary market, to look for a UNIDA member, because they have these capabilities to look into that box, to grade that box, to accurately describe that box, so that that box is then sold and sold successfully. So I think it's, it's quite an interesting thing. But my question for you, because there are a few platforms out there, as Rich has alluded to, we've got the big ones, the Amazons, the eBays. And I've been burnt off a couple of those at my time at a vendor, mainly because the level of detail wasn't correct. So my question to you is, on your platform, what's the percentage success rate of a completed sale because of the types of people that you're dealing with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the platform itself just connects the buyer with the seller. And so in standard terms, we can't see where that transaction goes after we've put A and B together. But what I will say then, if you go to Rich's other point about the dispute resolution committee, which would really tell us if a transaction didn't go well or not, rarely do we even get to the point of having to have a conversation about a dispute resolution. Typically, a case would be filed. There's a level of mediation within the dispute resolution committee, and then typically, the problem is solved, and we move on. I mean, I would say less than sort of 5 cases a year do we have to go through and talk to our members about challenges or problems that would happen within that transaction. So again, in support of the level of member that we're allowing to come into the association and the training that's done to make sure that these companies uphold the highest standards.
That's great.
Yeah. So one of the things, Jesse, a little bit about me, I'm a kid from Missouri, barely graduated high school, drove trucks in the military. So I try to go through and take some things and drill them down into Army truck driver language. But help me understand your platform, and a platform has 2 different sales cycles. How do you get people to buy, and who do you have people that will buy? And how do you attract sellers who can list and sell? So the platform hallmarks, as I understand it, in my Army truck driver brain, is in order to buy or sell on the platform, you have to be a member of UNIDA. Is that correct?
Exactly right. Yep.
Cool. And then how is payments transacted? Does the customer pay you and you pay the seller? Talk to me about the movement of money.
So the movement of money is all done business to business as well. So we simply just connect the buyer and the seller. So again, you need a member, a highly credible, credit-worthy companies, but that money is transaction from a person who's listing what we call a wanna buy, and then the seller as the person that's selling those products. So the money then comes from the buying company directly to the seller. So we're not involved in any sort of the credit checks or any of that. But again, given the level of work that goes into vetting our members prior to that, most of our member companies transact on credit.
Okay. So it's a business to business circular platform, matching used supply with used demand.
Yep.
And then the people who are acquiring the supply will eventually go through and try to make its way to the end customer, where the real value is. Cool.
Exactly right. Yep. So there could be several steps. It could be one from seller to buyer, buyer to buyer's customer is typically how that transaction works.
The other thing that UNIDA has is an anti-counterfeit policy. So I know this from because I know the organization. And that's really critical because counterfeit is very, very hard to catch. And so you have to know it. There is a blacklist of both people not to buy from and countries not to buy from. So, and that's heavily regulated, isn't it, by UNIDA? And also there's quite strict rules around what happens if you're found with counterfeit. Jesse, do you just want to explain to our listeners what that policy is and how it is policed?
Yeah, and so again, like the technology committee, we have a counterfeit committee, right, where we're educating our members, where we're seeing differences from what the standard would be versus counterfeit. Of course, our organization over many years have solicited and asked the OEMs for their support, right? Because like them, we don't want to see counterfeit in the marketplace. It's bad for business generally. And so we have a committee that goes through our members submitting cases where they're seeing and trying to vet out those counterfeit parts. And yes, if unfortunately there are counterfeits in the marketplace, our member companies get it. And for now, we hold that equipment, we quarantine that equipment or then scrap or destroy that equipment. So it's a standard within our marketplace to handle that with the utmost urgency and to make sure that it doesn't then filter back into the marketplace. We're destroying it on site and generally at the cost of our members, right, whom have bought that in.
So a warning, right?
Exactly right.
No,
So we talk about this concept called circular logistics, which is the movement of a product to the point of use through forward. This microphone will never be more forward than it is in my hand talking to you as an example. So forward is to the point of use. Reverse is from the point of use. If I ever decide that I don't want it or if I need to return it and it's moving away from me, that's reverse. And then as you talk about, there's asset recovery. How do you get it? Operations, how do you process it? Value generation, how do you go through and find value for it? So you can get that product to go to the point of use, keeping the product in circulation until the cost for reuse is greater than the blended benefit, and then you recycle it. Forward in logistics and manufacturing is very well represented, very well educated. Jesse, I'm not sure if you know, but there's only one college I have found on the planet that has a bachelor program and a master's program in reverse logistics specifically.
Incredible.
So when you're going through, and what I love about organizations is the reverse part is often very complex. It's undereducated and understood. But you have an annual conference that comes up that brings people together. I'm a firm advocate of ways to go through and train. Can you talk to us about the UNIDA conference that's getting ready to take place?
Yeah, so we just had our North American conference. We were down in Clearwater this year and spent the time doing exactly that. We like to have guest speakers come in and talk about changes in the marketplace, AI, where we think the direction of our organization is going and where the marketplace is going. And like you said, sharing new ideas and thoughts, talking about sustainability, how our member companies can be more sustainable, what's worked in reverse logistics or not. And so as our organization has expanded and as the model, the marketplace has shifted from the traditional brokerage or reseller into this more service-led or ITAD-led model, our member companies are sharing a lot about the successes of how we can bring those products back, how we can be more efficient in doing that. The circular part of if this piece of equipment's in Texas, let's figure out a member company in Texas to be able to take that equipment to remanufacture or refurbish it and then sell it back out.
I love that you brought up there the kind of closing of the gap between brokers and ITADs, because lots of people won't realize they're actually different disciplines. And it's this. Would it be fair to say there's been some friction between the two previously? Because brokerage historically will take a product that's no longer needed by its original owner and resell it for value, resell it for significant value. And then it goes on to its second ownership. ITAD really has been more about the disposition. It's been more about the taking down of the asset outside of a production environment, whether that be an office or a warehouse, it doesn't really matter, when it's coming out of use. And what really happened was that service-driven business, the disposition of the assets, they had like an epiphany, said, well, why don't we sell it? But without necessarily adding the value, and let's loop the conversation back to the refurbishment capabilities of the UNIDA members, why don't we just sell it? Now, it sounds really simple, but actually opens up a Pandora's box, because you don't know how to grade it, you don't know how to test it, you don't know how to box it, you actually don't know how to pallet it. I have seen people putting switches on top of switches. And if you know anything about logistics, putting metal on metal is the biggest no-no possible, because you have just ruined the entire shipment. I've seen people put pallets on top of pallets, which is another one. But so this industry is very nuanced. And I think now what you're beginning to see is the service driven, the ITAD level skill up. But actually a recognition that the brokerage side actually unlocks the value because of the processes that you put the equipment through, and because of the relationships that you have with the customers, because of the sales cycle. You're not flipping product just because you've taken it out. You're unlocking value and building a customer relationship. And I think I am going to ask you a question in a minute. I'm just on a monologue, but we're going to ask you later to bust a myth for us. But one of the myths that I'll bust right now is when people say my customer doesn't buy at the secondary. Yes, they do. Right? You just don't know about it.
Exactly.
And I think, so my question to you, Jesse, is, what kind of changes are you seeing in your industry? What are you seeing? Changes in behavior? Are you seeing changes in customers? Are you seeing changes from the manufacturers? Kind of what's the mood, and where are you finding changes? What's good, what's bad, and what do you think needs to happen? Because this is so important to the circular economy.
And one of the major changes that we're seeing, and a lot of these OEMs who are shifting or want to shift their focus from hardware to a more software-led model, and what that looks like for the reuse and the resale of those products. And what we're finding is that, traditionally these products will still work. If you look at a Cisco Catalyst as an example, 9300, right? That's heavy in licensing and heavy in DNA software. What we're finding in the secondary market is that a lot of the customers who are wanting to purchase these products just want to use it as its base value, as hardware. They don't want to get tied into a 1, 3, or 5-year subscription model. That doesn't work traditionally for their budgeting, right? And so the vendors and the OEMs want to shift that model, but we're finding that our customers want to use the equipment at base value. And so that market will continue to shift. There are enterprises that can afford to change and upscale every 3 years. But the customers that operate in the secondary market, and they're not just a small or medium-sized business, to bust another myth, right? These are large enterprise organizations. They're service providers. Rich, I know your history with service providers. Like, these are the customers that are in, and they have enough spend. They're big enough to tell the OEM what they're doing versus the OEM telling them, right? And a lot of that is around value and value recovery. And so we're seeing a shift in our marketplace for larger organizations pulling all of this equipment back in, and then leveraging UNIDA members, as to use your term, unlock the value of these products. And it's significant. It's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, one of the things that pulled me into this space was at Verizon. I was at one point the youngest director in the company of our operations and marketing. And in 2010, I started Verizon's trade-in program because my Army truck driver brain thought you're more likely to sell your car when you're buying a new car. You're more likely to sell your house when you're buying your new house. And those are really two of the most successful circular economies that have existed, but no one considers them circular. Right. But there's a value proposition, not just in the value of the equipment, but there is used car warranties, there's used car finance. So when I was buying devices back to put money in a customer's pocket to help sell more new things, and that turned into a different revenue stream, I started getting in trouble with our headquarters marketing team because they had the relationships with the OEMs, and they felt as though the used product was cannibalizing the sale of the new product. Fast forward to when I'm running Verizon's reverse monetization team, just broke $1 billion. I had to grow it to 300 million in 12 months. I started selling things to people and watching where it went. But there was an example that I have. It's a picture of a store in Aruba, Mio Mobile, and people were lined up out the door and down the block waiting to buy the new phone that was launching on the island in 2016. And it wasn't the iPhone 7, it was the iPhone 4S, a new -5 generation product. And none of those people were going to buy a iPhone 7. They couldn't afford it. But 100% of those people had to get iTunes to make the phone work. And then Apple gets 30 cents on the dollar for everything that goes through their platform. So they started seeing subscription revenue light up in places that they weren't in, which was one of the catalysts of the light bulb moment that they had, where they're like, all right, the secondary market is right for the environment and it grows your install base. So I would encourage particularly the brands and manufacturers to also understand that if they do have a product that is capable of warranty and service, find out the warranty and service for customer 2, 3, and 4, because it's possible to make more money, not by selling more things, but make more money by extracting the value of the things that people have already made. The secondary market's a beautiful thing if you know how to wield it. Jesse, talk to me about UNITA and how long has it been in existence? Is this a new concept?
It's not. So founded in 2006. And so we've been around a long time. We've learned a lot throughout our years in the marketplace and continue to leverage our members to get better and to do more. And so, one of the things that we're focusing on and why we're interested in learning and expanding our footprint from the traditional brokerage model to an ITAD is because, we see it as a pie. And the larger that pie is, the larger this marketplace is, the bigger the slice that you're going to have. Right? And driving, unlocking those revenue opportunities. But to go back to your point earlier around, these manufacturers are not seeing where the secondary market can help and support. There's many different avenues in which we can do that. And one, you're right, is around subscriptions. There are countries, there are companies that don't have the budget or the bandwidth, they don't have the support to be able to buy these products, but they'll see service revenue, they'll see licensing revenue. And, it's really interesting if you talk specifically about the Cisco and the Meraki model. And Vic, to go back to your point around where we're seeing the market shift, like companies love the Meraki framework. They love the portal that you can use and its ease of use. And quite honestly, the ease of use then for the secondary market, whether it's claimed or unclaimed, and going in, and companies that are going to go on eBay or go on Amazon and buy those products now with the support of the vendor to be able to then buy licensing or buy support, they're going to do that. But in most cases, they're getting blocked because of which channel did it come out of, whether it was the forward channel, like you've talked about, Rich, or our sustainable or secondary market.
It's funny.
It's just short-sighted.
The device that was displaced on the island back in 2016 was a Huawei device, and the network that was primarily used in Aruba was Huawei. And it really kind of spurned this thought, and I did use it at Cisco, was could used blue displace new of whatever competition? Let's fight them in their strong market with our used things so they don't get strong enough to fight us in our own. Right. So different way of thought. But Vic, I think it might be time for a myth bust.
I think it might. So Jesse, we ask all of our guests to come on and bust a myth. And every now and again we do it ourselves. But so hopefully you have one prepared. So Jesse, please tell us, what myth would you like to bust today?
I've been prepared. I've watched a lot of the podcasts and found really interesting, and I've learned a lot. Yeah, again, just the secondary market is so broad, right? And I've lived in this bubble for the last 20 some years around just the secondary market and hardware. And so it's been really great to learn and see more about the holistic circularity and marketplace. Anyway, the myth that I'd like to bust, and I think most of our UNITA members bust on a daily basis, is that refurbished IT or secondary market equipment isn't secure. That's certainly what the manufacturers are telling our customers and potential customers. And the reality is that, in some cases it can be even considered more secure with the certifications that our members hold, either R2, V3, ISO certifications, NAID certifications, NIST certifications. Our member companies understand and see the opportunity there. And, with those certifications, we're wiping the equipment. We're bringing it back to factory default, and it's going back out. It's being retested, right? And so in a lot of cases, our member companies are advertising that the test or failure rates are higher than the OEM because the level of work and detail that goes into testing, refurbishing, and then sending those products back out.
Yeah, I've seen that live actually. Yeah, I have, where a product was repeatedly failing at a manufacturer, and it hits a secondary, hit an expert, and they knew exactly what to do, exactly what the problem was, got it working, got the sale.
I remember that specifically, Vic. I mean,
Yeah.
in the remanufacturing plant, there were a couple
Yeah.
bent pins. In order to figure that out, send it to our organization. We looked at it, figured it out, and
Yeah.
now they're not having the failures anymore.
See, in this, I suppose this is where we really wanted to get to, or where I wanted to get to with our conversation today, is that what UNITA represents is a collective of organizations that meet a standard. And those standards are there for a reason. We've said self-regulatory quite a lot during this podcast, and I'll say it again, because it's really important that when you're looking to purchase product and you're looking to purchase products on the secondary market, that you go to, an organization that has invested. ISO costs money to invest, and there's 3 to 4 of them that organizations have got. The 9001, 27001, 45001 at a minimum. R2, V3, it's an expensive investment that organizations make to hold these certifications. And if you're then looking to purchase, let's say you're looking to purchase a server and they're, $100 more expensive, that's the reason why. But you're not going to get a counterfeit one. You're going to get something that works, and you're going to be dealing with an organization that has, both integrity, but also, financial stability, and not flipping products out of a garage, right?
Exactly right. And supported all by our warranties, right? There are minimum warranty requirements within our association.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, Jesse, I love the fact that organizations like UNITA exist. I've certainly learned a lot today about the opportunities that exist out there. But if I had a company and I wanted to become a member of UNITA, or if I want to find out more about the conferences that you have, how can I find you? How can I learn more? What's the process of becoming a member?
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's great. So just unida.com, UNEDA.com. We're on LinkedIn. You can check us out there, but through our website can contact us. And we have an administrator there that would handle all that, getting in contact with us, and then would fill out our forms online. It would go through a vetting process, and then a board of directors then would vote whether that potential member company would be fit in our organization or not. And Rich, we have a couple conferences a year. Maybe it's time that we hold a master class of secondary market and continue to educate our members. So we're working on the details for our 2026 conference, but a formal invite to have you come down and help educate our members.
We'd love to do that. Thank you.
Oh, that would be great. And the next conference, Jesse, is in Palmer, and I believe you've got a special guest presenting.
We do, and her name is Vic D'Arcy, and we can't wait to have her come on. So we're looking forward to seeing you in just a few months. Yeah.
You got the better of the podcast host coming to yours.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to connecting with the members. Jesse, thank you. I think it's such a great topic. I love what UNITA represents, and I know many of the members underneath that, and in fact, we've interviewed a couple. So please, continue with the great work. Come and see us again. Really looking forward to presenting at the conference in Palmer, and hoping to see lots of new and old faces there. So without further ado, I've been Vic D'Arcy.
And I'm Rich Bolger.
And Jesse, thank you very much. We'll hopefully see you again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Please head over to allthingscircular.com to learn more.